From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters, welcoming all of you to tonight's show, including Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, fill out a Sightlines report, read up on the Newswire, and much more coming soon. Tonight's show is brought to you by Mighty Moose Beard Oil Company. It's 100% Canadian, 100% natural, taking care of beards around the world. Visit MightyMooseBeard.com. Use promo code SOR2019 today. David Weatherly is a frequent guest on this show, coming on every couple of months to break down the cryptid tales he's investigating around the world. David has been a paranormal investigator and author for over 35 years. Looks great in a top hat as well. The stranger the cases are, the better for him, which has made his talents renowned around the planet. David has also studied shamanic and magical traditions with elders from numerous cultures in Europe, Tibet, Native America, and Africa. He is a writer for Intrepid magazine and is the author of The Black-Eyed Children. You can find all of his books from Leprechaun Press and Amazon.com. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Mr. David Weatherly, it's been a while. You have had just an incredibly busy summer here, running around, filming, conferences, showing off the top hat. You've been busy, man.
I have indeed, my friend, and let me update you on a couple things, because for some odd reason you pulled an old bio there.
I did.
I'm going to show my age and say that I've now been in the field over 40 years. Intrepid magazine is long gone. I have nothing to do with those guys anymore, and the press is Eerie Lights. So there's a brand new website that went up in May. I don't think I've even been on since then, and that is at eerielights.com. Everybody, please check it out. You'll find all kinds of articles, information about the books, both from myself and other people that my press publishes, as well as events and all kinds of good stuff on there. So that's eerielights.com, EERIELIGHTS.com. And I know I'm pitching things up front, but I just wanted to clear that up, since you
not a problem.
You pulled some old material out of somewhere. I don't know where you got that, but yeah, man, it's good to be on again. And gosh, I don't think I've talked to you since the spring, not on air anyway.
No, man, you have been so busy running around. Every time I called you up to say, hey, are you coming on? Can you come on? You know, we're at that 2-month schedule. And you're like, dude, I can't. I just can't. But you know what? You brought in some great guests. You did your part. You had a couple of really great people fill in. And I'll tell you, Dave, I mean, the connections you have in this field are second to none. And that goes for, I think, your legitimacy for who you are as a professional in this field, which is very, very rare to find.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And you know, it's kind of my nature too to network in that way, because you know, I'm old school in some ways doing this. When I started in this field, there was no, you know, internet. You couldn't just, you know, punch a few keys in and get a list of sightings and contacts and things like that. So you had to meet people and network and really create those solid connections. And I still enjoy doing that. I really do. And it's great to network with people in the field and becoming friends with them and hear, you know, their experiences and their background and everything. And it's, you know, I try to hype people that I trust when I can. And I know you've had a couple of frequent guests on that are friends of mine. I think I also set you up with Chad Lewis, who's a really good guy, and I'm sure that was a fantastic show. So
Eric Altman,
and it's all about, you know, those genuine people who spend time in the field researching this stuff and have done the work. That's what it's all about.
David, when you look at the field these days, and I've been following it quite a bit, more so on the UFO side, and I know you have your fingers dabbling in absolutely everything. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you stay on top of everything or how you find the time to do so. But the way ufology has really taken over the paranormal field of late, is this just a trend, or is it because it's probably the closest that we can come to proving an existence of something else that is alternative?
Oh, I don't know if it's the closest or not, but you know, over the years, these things kind of go in cycles, and it usually happens because something very relevant hits the mainstream, you know, and people get excited and the interest sparks up again, not just from people who are already in the field, but from people who are sort of on the outskirts and people who had that lingering question in their mind who were, you know, maybe on the fence about some of these topics. So, you know, a few years ago, it was cryptids. Everybody was really hot on, you know, learning more about Bigfoot, and it's still a really popular thing. We had a number of television shows that came out, but you know, the UFO question. I mean, this is. I've never seen anything like this in a sense, because Blue Book was really a little bit before my time, and that's maybe the closest equivalent. But now we've hit a period where we've got the government actually coming out and admitting things. More importantly, in some ways, we've got very respectable people, I guess is the term I would use. You know, you've got more and more people that are military personnel, politicians, and I'm not saying politicians are necessarily respectable, but respectable. But, you know, some of them are. We've got, what I'm saying is we've got a lot of people in interesting positions who are now coming out and saying, there's something going on. We need to ask questions. We need to get to the bottom of this. We need to investigate. And, you know, with all the revelations that have happened just this year, it's pretty fascinating, the time that we're living in, to see what's happening with ufology. What's interesting to me is I'm going to, I guess, I don't want to say I'm going to toot my own horn for a moment, but in a way, it's kind of interesting for me because I think that disclosure is organically happening like I expected it to. And it's fascinating to witness that because, you know, for years, this whole disclosure thing has floated within the field of ufology, and it's been a big topic that everybody has been aware of at the least, and then a core of people have been working and pushing for very hard, and it's all been geared towards making the government disclose all the information and come forward. And I was always kind of adamant that, you know, I really did not expect at any point a president to get up and say, here's everything we know about UFOs and we need to find out more or, you know, whatever the case would be. And the thing for me is that if a president did get up and say that, would you really believe it? Would you honestly believe that? You know, whether it was the president or the prime minister or whoever, would you really believe that they were completely telling us everything they knew? I think it's pretty naive to say, oh, yeah, I believe that. I believe everything the government says. So, you know, disclosure for me, I think, has always been about the topic organically coming into people's consciousness at a different level so that more people are asking questions and aware that there are some things we need answers on. And I believe that's what we're seeing happen now.
Do you believe the right questions are being asked, though? Because I look at, Dave, when the U.S. Navy came out and they started saying, you know, we're just starting to create this database for our pilots and our crew members that they can report it without feeling guilty or having any fault because we've never done this before. Yet there wasn't a single reporter who said, well, if you've never done this before, how are the 2004 Nimitz videos still around? I mean, just something obvious.
This is a new thing for everybody today. And, you know, you have to realize that the right questions are going to change as the story develops, so to speak. And, you know, to a degree, we're seeing a very controlled release, at least it's being controlled as much as the government can from their perspective. And, they're letting incrementally, they're letting things out, but it's going to continue to evolve. Sometimes on a almost daily basis, sometimes, over the months, but it's a process that I think everyone in the mainstream is starting to learn how to navigate, because, most reporters have never addressed these questions in a serious manner. You've got a very small number of people in the mainstream media over the years who have addressed these topics without a little smirk on their face and the X-Files music playing in the background. And, when you consider that, you have to also consider that it's new territory for them too. And some of these people are great reporters, but they're just not used to going into this territory. So it's difficult for them to know how to do it without crossing those lines and being laughed at by their colleagues. Still, that fear does still exist. I spoke to a reporter recently, it was kind of interesting, who was talking about this very topic. And, she was saying, well, we're still trying to figure out exactly how to approach these stories and make people understand that it's not another Halloween story or something. It's something that more people are taking a serious look at, and how do we convey that to the public?
Mm-hmm. I understand that, and I can appreciate that. What about the divide that is happening in the field of ufology? You have this younger generation that is very pro to the stars, who are very aggressive on social media. Some of them, and I've talked to a number of them, and I'm not going to mention who says what to me, because I don't like calling people out by name. I don't think that's fair at times. And this is one of those times. But one of the people I was talking to in that group basically said to me, the old school researchers really ignored the younger crowd. And now the younger crowd is starting to get the information. They've aligned themselves, sure they have, with TTSA, and they are going full bore on social media, whereas the let's say the 45 and up generation of researchers really seems to be anti-TTSA, very much standoffish with anything that the younger people are getting at times. There seems to be a real divide going on within the field. Is that healthy as the field grows, or is this something that we should be concerned about because people are really, really drawing a line in the sands?
Oh, I think that it was inevitable, and honestly, that divide was already there. There's all of these walls that were built over the years within the field of UFO studies. And, I'm not a big fan of a lot of the organizations. I think that some solid work has been done at times, but we reached this point where how many, and I will call out an organization name, how many more MUFON scandals can you have before, people en masse are going to say, wow, what do we do about this? And, I'm not going to get into gossip or scandal or any of that kind of stuff directly. I'm just saying that it's clearly an organization that needs to either, go through a metamorphosis into something else, or it needs to kind of quietly close down and make way for the next wave of whatever we need, because there's just been, one thing after another. And I say this, someone who has observed it from the outside. I've read the MUFON Journal over the years. I've kept up with a lot of the reports that they get, but I've also known a lot of people within various levels of leadership at MUFON, and I know a lot of very respectable researchers and investigators who have left and said, enough is enough, in different ways. And that's just one side of this whole dynamic that's happened, because you have all these other little organizations that have sprung up here and there. You've got the whole recent thing with Tom DeLonge's organization, and you've got, oh gosh, it just kind of goes on and on, doesn't it? You've got independent researchers, and it's really sad to me that in a lot of ways you've had so much time and energy burned by people not working together because everybody wants to say, no, this is my case, this is my information. The field overall, in that sense, hasn't done itself any good because there's been too much infighting. And, I sort of sit back and just wait to see, I guess, with, these newer organizations to think, okay, well,
right.
We'll see what happens. I think that a lot of those old school investigators that you're talking about, they were disgusted a long time ago by the situation in the field. And that's why, some of the most respectable people, I think, have been independent for a long time and just quietly doing their work and investigating, when and where they could and writing, publishing, doing whatever. And that's kind of what we need to revert back to. The only thing that concerns me about some of the new wave, so to speak, of investigators is that I hope that these younger generations, you can't investigate or find answers by sitting on Twitter all day. These people, I hope they're doing the research. I hope they're reading things that aren't published on the internet, and that they're out in the field and actually, getting their boots on the ground and doing some field work and finding answers that way, interviewing witnesses, looking at details, learning how to investigate, so on and so forth, rather than, following Tom DeLonge's Twitter feed or listening to the, latest 20-second news bite. That's interesting, but it only goes to a certain level. So, I think there's a big gap between the people who are just scratching the surface like that and the old school guys who did a lot of serious research. And, some of these people are still doing great work. Richard Dolan, is a friend of mine. He's done phenomenal work. And there's a whole litany of others, of course, go through, do the research and do the work.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we'll see that gap close down some as new people come into the field, because there is a big new wave of people interested now.
There is, and I think for good reason. The problem that we have in a field like this is everybody notes themselves as an expert right off the bat. We've seen that so many times and time and again. And Dave, I look at myself here.
It's a term I never use.
I look at myself here, and I have been fortunate to learn and to become friends with two great ones. And I know you listen every now and again, and I'm not sure you maybe heard me, but I always bring up your name and John Tenney as two of the most logical people in this field. And I think if anybody's going to solve these mysteries, it's going to be either one of you, because of the way you guys keep an open mind. You're skeptical, you're resourceful, and you keep an open mind with absolutely everything. And the way I have seen a lot of people attacking John Tenney over just saying, hey, we have to have an open mind especially on Twitter, where John is very active. I don't think that plays well with the newer generation that is going after a lot of these veterans, such as John, maybe yourself or whoever, who are saying, everyone, let's just take a step back. Rather than hopping on any bandwagons, let's take a step back, let's analyze the information, and let's figure out what the pros and what the cons are. We're not saying we don't like TTSA, but what we are saying is let's look at the other side, because what they're showing us isn't the full game. And we see that a lot right now in ufology. Well, we just seem to have lost Dave there. Let's try and get him back. Let's try and get him back here. Sometimes Skype just likes to cut out. Maybe that was Dave's cell phone instead of my fault this time.
That was weird.
Yeah, we lost you there for a quick second. I don't know what you heard me saying there, Dave. But basically, I was saying we were you and John have been catalysts in telling people, just sit back, relax, let's watch it play out, see where it goes. But it seems like a lot of the younger generation and maybe the music fans are all hot to trot, and they don't want to see the other side. They don't want to see the negative or ask the tough questions because they love the way it's going, which is fair. That's their opinion. But to go on social media and start making it personal and attacking personal credibility of people like John and other people out there who are working hard, you may not agree with their way of thinking, but it is getting personal out there.
It is. I mean, you're kind of addressing an issue that in the field that kind of crosses the line, within. It hits not just ufology, but it also hits, the study of haunted locations, cryptids, and everything else. And it's that we have generations of people now who are, you open a can of worms here, so I'm just going to go with it. We've got generations of people now who are basing their approach and their whole knowledge foundation on what they've learned from watching television shows or, what they've snagged from Twitter or Snapchat or whatever. The attention span of people, this is a fact, has dropped tremendously. When I was young, I would sit and read. Hell, I still sit and read. Dave, when I have time, I read several books a week. I usually am reading a half dozen books at least at the same time. It's just kind of the way my mind works. And I still do that. I still read an average probably of 5 to 10 books a week. And, that's a physical hard book, but that's a rare thing anymore. People in the field who are out doing ghost hunting, a lot of these people, their credentials are that they saw every episode of Ghost Hunters. I don't know anything about the background of this location except that someone was murdered here that's supposed to be a demon and my K2 meter's going off. And we're not going to get anywhere with that kind of research. We're just not. They're getting a quick thrill, and hey, that's what they're in it for. Well, all right, more power to you, I suppose. But, to get solid answers on any of this phenomena, it takes time, attention, focus, research, work. And investigation, and that's the kind of thing that I talk about. And, Kenny and I share a lot of similar ideas on those approaches. I've known John a long time. I haven't seen him lately, but, we can talk for hours about this kind of stuff. And it's a fact. All these people now, they want to see it in a tweet or they want to see a photo in a Snapchat
right.
or Instagram or something like that, and they think they've got all the information, and that is a deadly combination. It really is, because there's a lot of people who just leap to conclusions, they're making assumptions, and that gets
That's
very
right.
concerning. It's very troubling, actually, and that's
David,
kind of what I'm
going to get you to hold on right there because I missed the clock, and we got to go to break here. My bad.
Don't worry.
More David Weatherly on Spaced Out Radio right after this. Hey, Spaced Out Radio listeners, it's Dave Scott. I want you to check out a great documentary I'm involved in called Beyond the Spectrum, Mosson's UFO Files. Directed by Darcy Weir, the film follows Jaime Mosson's journey for mainstream journalistic truth in ufology in Mexico. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon Prime. If you're a member, watch it free. It's worth the watch. Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TESA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio, you can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology. Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, hanging out with all of you right here in the frozen Canadian tundra. Boy, it's chilly out here. I almost had to put socks on tonight. Almost had to put socks on. That's how cold it's getting up here. I'm sure it's going to snow soon. Well, maybe in a couple months, hopefully. But man, is it starting to get cold. Nonetheless, I want to remind all of you, you can read up on the SOR Newswire, as well as check out a new set of features we have at spacedoutradio.com. You can also go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/spacedoutradio. We store all of our archives there for free. We'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. David Weatherly from EerieLights.com is here tonight on Spaced Out Radio. He stops by every couple of months to update us on the weird and strange and whatever the hell he's following in the forest, because it's always something scary and spooky. David is the author of numerous books, which can be found at EerieLights.com and all over Amazon. Highly suggest you check out his reads. David, welcome back.
Thanks, man.
Now, right before the break, I had opened up a little bit of a can of worms with you, and I had to cut you off due to the break because you were kind of talking about the divide in ufology. But I want to get to a comment here. Normally, I don't take comments or questions until hour 2, but John on Twitter kind of made a comment that makes sense. He goes, why don't some of the older guard reach out to offer and mentor some of the younger generation of investigators who really want to learn? Set up a weekly call, methods, techniques, so that way everybody can learn as one. I know you've done it with numerous people, but you're picky because you have to be in this field. But wouldn't that be a lot more grand than what we're seeing right now?
Well, that's a fantastic idea. The problem is implementing it because, you have to have two sides to that equation. And a lot of the younger generation, it's what I was talking about just before the break, is that they're really not interested in doing the work, the research, the study, the investigation, and those types of things. And, you just have too many people right now, Dave, in this field who are in it for celebrity. I almost hesitate to say, but that really is what a lot of it is. All of these topics have become such a part of mainstream culture now to a degree that it's really hip. We've got shows popping up on television left and right, and there really are a lot of people. And I'm not, anybody who has a genuine interest, I'm not trying to degrade people or anything like that. But I'm just saying that a lot of the ones that are speaking the loudest are doing the least, if that makes sense to you. And we've got a lot of these people who, they pop up out of nowhere and, okay, it's fantastic. You're interested. You want to be a researcher, investigator, or whatever. Reach out to some of the older generation. Reach out to some of the people that you respect and say, hey, can I, shoot you questions every once in a while, or, can you direct me in a couple of good directions that I can start building a solid foundation? That's really what these people need to do. And, it just doesn't happen that often. Like I said, it's a fantastic idea, but you have to have the older generation who are willing to work with those people, and you have to have the younger ones who are willing to listen and actually, follow the guidance, at least to a degree. And unfortunately, usually both sides just aren't, it's just not happening.
David Weatherly's on Spaced Out Radio tonight. David, I want to get into some stories here because you have had an impactful 2019 running all over North America, trying to do a lot of filming for documentaries, television shows. You have been speaking at numerous conferences. Yet you always seem to find some weird and strange location that kind of hits your intrigue. Out of everywhere you've traveled so far in 2019, what's the best story you've followed up on so far?
Oh, gosh. That's going to be hard to narrow down. I can throw a few things at you. Actually, before I get into a location, I do have a really fascinating account that I received. Now, let me give you the background on this. My book, Silver State Monsters, covers cryptids in the state of Nevada. In that book, there is an account that I dubbed Nuclear Sasquatch. Now, the account took place in 1980. I'm hesitating because I'm trying to remember if it's 80 or 81. I believe it's 1980. And what happened was the Nevada nuclear test site outside of Las Vegas. For those not familiar with it, this is the area where the U.S. government tested nuclear weapons for years. And, back in the 1950s, everybody thought nuclear power was this great thing, right? It was going to be, the energy of the future. There's no problems with it. And people in Vegas back in those days would watch the mushroom clouds out on the horizon. They thought, oh, cool, another test today. Having no sense of the dangers from the radiation and everything else. So over the years, of course, as more revelations were discovered about nuclear testing and eventually they stopped testing in that area and closed it down for active tests, but it is still a secure government facility. And in 1980, the Nevada test site officers at the command center had quite a situation to deal with because a gentleman who was making a delivery to the test site saw a Sasquatch strolling across the Nevada nuclear test site. Now, this gentleman, he has security clearance and everything. You had to be on the base. He reports this. They send security officers out to check, exactly what's going on. He describes this Bigfoot in detail. There's this tall, hairy creature across the highway in front of his delivery vehicle, strolling across the desert. There's a conflicting story about the guards who went out to do a follow-up. Some stories say, well, I didn't find anything. But there's other stories I've heard that said, yeah, these guards went out and they saw a set of tracks that went across the test site, across the highway, and then headed east. Now, fascinating story in and of itself. The press got a hold of it. Now, this must have been a slow news day or something because they ran with this thing. And pretty soon, the site's information officer, a guy named Dave Jackson, was getting calls left and right from people wanting to know about the Bigfoot out on the nuclear test range. So he's answering all these calls one after the other. He's telling the story. He's kind of sick of hearing it at this point. He gets a call, and it's a gentleman who says, first thing he says when Jackson picks up the phone, he says, yeah, you're not going to believe what I have to tell you. Jackson's thinking, yeah, okay, buddy. There's probably nothing that you can tell me today. But the guy asks a few details about this Sasquatch sighting. He asks which direction the creature was heading. Jackson tells him. The guy says, well, I can tell you this. Anytime that we have a sighting of a Sasquatch heading east from here, the caller was in California, said there's going to be an earthquake within 24 hours. So now Jackson's thinking, yeah, I guess I have heard it all now. He's saying, all right, buddy, thanks for your call, I guess, and hangs up. Here's the kicker, Dave. Within 24 hours, there was an earthquake. Now, I bring this up, even though it's an old account, because obviously I have a follow-up. And here's the follow-up. The first week of July, I was speaking on an Ancient Aliens cruise that went down to Cozumel, Chichen Itza, sites down in the Yucatan. And while I was gone, the Ridgecrest earthquake struck in California. Pretty big quake. They felt it in Las Vegas. The family in Vegas felt it. Felt the house rattle. Other friends in the area, felt it different degrees, and were just kind of freaked out by it. It was obviously a pretty damaging quake. It wasn't major in the sense of lots of lives lost or anything like that. But here's the weird thing. There was an email in I didn't have email access part of the time that I was on the cruise. Well, it turned out I had received an email that came to me prior to the earthquake from a woman. She and her husband were driving from California to Nevada. They saw Bigfoot heading east across Nevada 24 hours before that earthquake.
Wow. That's interesting timing.
Yeah, you think? So, it kind of, it was a really strange thing to occur after, that story intrigued me about the sighting on the test site. And of course, the gentleman claiming, here we've got, Bigfoot runs from earthquakes. Now, when you look at the actual data of earthquakes and the reaction of animals prior to quakes, there are tons of reports, both for earthquakes and tsunamis and other events, where the animals will leave the area prior to the event. Because on some level, they sense that something's coming, they sense they need to leave. So, do we have the same effect occurring with these creatures? Obviously, it's much harder to document that, but I think it's pretty fascinating to consider, wow, what if? What if these creatures, just like every other animal, hightails it prior to a seismic event?
In your latest book regarding Sasquatch in Nevada and cryptid creatures in Nevada, I'm very, very curious, Dave. Did you ever study up, and I'm sure you did, about the alleged Sasquatch that was caught during, I believe, the early 1990s up in the forest near Reno, where it came out of the burning fires?
Yeah, that's the Battle Mountain incident. And, I did cover it in the book. It appears to me that there is kind of a lingering question with this story, but it appears to have been a hoax. Now, the story is this. The story, in a nutshell, is that there was a fire occurring at a location called Battle Mountain that is in northern Nevada. And during the fires, purportedly, a gentleman who was a paramedic and who was assisting firefighters says that he saw a creature come out of the woods that was severely burned, and it was a Sasquatch, is what he was describing. So he says that this creature came out. It obviously needed help, that they tried to start tending to its wounds. He throws some other details in. Apparently there was a Native American woman who was present, who was one of the emergency workers, who was able to calm this thing down. He says that they got it in a truck and they were taking it to down off the mountain to get it medical assistance, and that it disappeared. Now, this was a pretty fascinating story at the time. It was reported to the BFRO. there were some follow-up communications with this guy, and then he kind of disappeared, as I recall. Then he resurfaced. The long and short is that BFRO investigators followed up on it, and they determined that it was a phony story. There were some holes in the account when I dug into it, because there were some real questions about the dates of the fires that he claimed he had been present for, and so forth. There's a couple of researchers who have looked at it and said that they think it's a valid story and that it was a government cover-up. It's kind of weird, that's one of those things where you get into a lot of what ifs, and you think, what if, maybe. And I've heard those kind of accounts from other places around the country that, there was a Sasquatch that was wounded or someone cornered one or something like that. Then these guys show up and the whole thing disappears. These purportedly these government employees or military personnel or whatever they are. So, the short answer to your question is at this point, I don't think that the Battle Mountain account is real. I think it probably was a hoaxed story that came out.
David Weatherly is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. You bring up an interesting point as we got about 7 minutes left but here before we go to break. Do you believe these reports, David, that the government does have something on Sasquatch and they are trying to cover it up? Now, I know up here in British Columbia, where I am, you have been to my home. You've been to my area. You've seen how thick the forests are. I mean, hell, we were driving down a highway and got chased by a bear while we're doing 65 miles an hour. I mean, you witnessed it. I witnessed it. Ross, Grant Cameron. I mean, that's just how far out here I am. And when you look at the loggers' stories that happen around here, they are having interaction. And it's scaring the daylights out of them. Some crews are not even going back to their work until everything kind of calms down. And the forestry sector, they don't want to be announcing that there is Bigfoot around or Sasquatch around because they've got millions of dollars invested in that piece of land that they're allowed to log. And if they don't make their quota, they're going to be out a lot of money. And that's kind of the way it plays out here. And I do believe that there is something being kind of covered up with Sasquatch because there's a lot of industry. There is a lot to lose if this creature is found to be inhabiting the forests of North America.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'll throw in that, that bear story, the bear chasing our truck. I have to say, Ross turned a nice pale shade when that happened, which I was pretty amused by. I think the rest of us were laughing, but yeah, you made some good points. The thing is that when it comes down to it, Dave, I guess I'll go back to what I was saying earlier in the show, and that's that if the government, does a press conference and says, "Here's everything we know," do you really believe that? I think that there's kind of two extremes almost that we have to look at when we consider this. One is that, is there some weird, intense, elaborate cover-up that the various governments, whether it's the U.S. or Canadian governments or whatever, are enacting in order to hide the existence of Sasquatch? No, I don't think it's that elaborate. Do they know more than they're saying? Yeah, I absolutely think that they do. And are there occasions when governments, or maybe more likely corporations, are hiding accounts or facts or, heck, even bodies? Who knows? It's very, very possible. I know in the United States, not as much now, but certainly in the past, the timber industry had a lot of power and a lot of influence. And a lot of financial interests were, bound up in the timber industry. And I remember the days of the battle over the spotted owl here when, there was a big battle to preserve certain areas because of the endangered species that were existing there. So, yeah, I can guarantee you some corporate big shots, found out that some rare animal was existing in an area that they had been granted access to go in and cut timber? Are they going to cover it up? Yeah. You can be almost positive that they're going to. So, it's like any other type of phenomenon. I think there's so many layers and levels that as investigators and researchers, we have to continue to try to peel back and get to the bottom and get some answers. It's an ongoing task.
With your sources that you have, whether they're governmental, whether they're state or whomever it may be, has anybody ever told you, as we got about 3 minutes to go, that they are covering up the Sasquatch story and giving you a reason why?
I've heard that on a few occasions. I've heard those types of stories on a lot of occasions, but most of them I don't find. There's usually not a lot that you can go in and verify, or it's an account that, I know somebody who said such and such, or, I know somebody who knows somebody. I will say, and I can't give a whole lot of details about it, I did listen to a very compelling case from North Carolina, and I'll kind of leave it at this. The person that told me, we'll say he was, I'll be vague and say he was law enforcement. And he told me that he witnessed a body of a Sasquatch being taken away. And can't really say much else about that on air because of, the guarantee that I gave him at this point. But this incident happened quite a few years ago, and he honestly didn't have any clear sense of why, other than, again, here's a very rare species. Here's something that we don't really know about. If, somebody with deep pockets or government connections decides they want to study it, then they're going to do whatever they feel like they can get away with doing.
It's hard to fathom that money takes precedence over what could be an amazing finding for the North American animal species, if it is indeed an animal, Dave.
Well, it's a sad fact of how the world currently operates. We've got people with too much power and too much money in some regards, and they can get away with these kind of things. At least that's how it stands right now. I don't like it any more than you do, but, we certainly see it in action to varying degrees, I think. Even practical things that we can certainly find evidence of. You look at all the stuff that was uncovered about the amount of spying on American citizens that's done by these corporations. I mean, that's a fact. The amount of money they make just from having our personal information from things like Facebook and Google and everything else. That's mind-boggling. But the details are out there, and at this point, a lot of people just kind of shake their heads and say, "Oh well, okay, what can we do about it?"
Absolutely. David Weatherly is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. His website, eerielights.com. Make sure you check it on out. More Cryptid Talk with the master, David Weatherly, right after this, an hour or two of Spaced Out Radio coming up.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Come hang out with Spaced Out Radio, where we own the night. This is Carl. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and during the show, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to chat with us live. On Instagram, at Dave Scott SOR. On Facebook, give our page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. SOR archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. Come join us, or I will come join you. See you at your window.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot THAL. Come tune in to SOR, where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com, where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com, and remember, Little Brother is watching.
Canada's largest UFO conference is ready to roll in Toronto this September 21st and 22nd at the Alien Cosmic Expo. This year is about the experience. Listen to the stories of Dave Scott, Travis Walton, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Ryan Stacey, Richard Dolan, Leslie Mitchell-Clark, and more. Get your tickets now at aliencosmicexpo.com. Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Hey fans, it's Dave Scott. Do I have something for you to check out? A great documentary about legendary Mexican investigative journalist Jaime Maussan and his search for the truth about UFOs. Beyond the Spectrum, Maussan's UFO files can be found on Amazon Prime. It's free to watch if you're a member. You might even hear me in it. So check out Beyond the Spectrum, only on Amazon Prime. The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacey, head of the Research Association, TESA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social media freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social media freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. We want to give a shout-out to our terrestrial affiliates, KDNF AM 1560 in Dangerfield, Texas, UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans, KDUN AM 1030 in Reedsport, Oregon, KZFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California, and WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia. On the digital side, we're on Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. Great to have you with us. Don't forget, you can check out all of our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Vehiculation. Vehiculation is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You got the SOR Sightlines report, so if you've had an experience, fill it on out. It's right there for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read up on the SOR Newswire, and so much more, and more coming. All at spacedoutradio.com. We introduced David Weatherly tonight on Spaced Out Radio. He is one of the top, in my opinion, premier researchers when it comes to everything weird, strange, cryptid, and paranormal in this continent we call North America. David has eerielights.com as his website, so you want to make sure you check that on out as well. You can find all of his books on Amazon. David, welcome back to Spaced Out Radio.
Hey, thanks, Dave. Great to be here.
The first hour, we pretty much focused on UFOs. You are mainly known as Black-Eyed Kid Guy. You will always be known in that. And I got to tell you, man, I get a lot of questions. When you were up here in September, you gave me a T-shirt of Black-Eyed Kids, and I still wear it. And thank you so much that you actually brought my size. And nonetheless, I gotta say, man, I've had a lot of people question me what Black-Eyed Kids are, and it's weird because I look at the way the field has shifted in the last 18, 19 months. And there are topics like the Black-Eyed Kids that seem to be kind of being pushed to the wayside. What do you think?
That was a real hot topic for a few years there, but right now, especially what the last I don't know, 6 months or more, UFOs have been at the top of everybody's mind. And that's kind of been the big thing. We've had all of this stuff happening with the government revelations and, not to rehash what we were talking about before, but really that's within the field of strange phenomena. I think that's the hot ticket right now. How long it'll last, is anybody's guess, because as soon as something else hits the top of the chart, so to speak, then that's going to shift the interest. But for the people who are the, researchers down in the trenches and everything, we're watching this stuff and realizing that accounts of weird occurrences across the board are still on the rise. They really are. And, I get constant emails and messages from people telling me about, cryptid sightings or haunted locations they've experienced, or, UFO sightings, a whole range of things. And it seems to go on and on. I think eventually we're going to cycle around to where all of it's kind of a hot topic. And that's going to be really cool to see. But, hopefully we'll get some more very dedicated, hardcore researchers out in the field in the time before that happens.
Mm-hmm. Are the reports still coming in on black-eyed children?
Yeah, they do. I still get them on a constant basis. A friend of mine said that's kind of like my free bird. As much as I write and do other things, people are always going to ask me about that topic, because other people wrote about it prior to me, but I was the first one to release a whole book that studied the phenomena. Right now, it's still, I still get reports. Most of them fall into the same range of, this happened, ABC. And, there's still a lot of sensational reports that surface on the internet that, I let a black-eyed kid in and now my daughter's dead, or, weird things like that. And it's never really followed up on. It's usually not from people who are out investigating, actively these cases. So I think when it comes to that phenomena, we're sort of at a point where we just have to wait and see what the next development is, where it goes next. The thing about it that still intrigues me somewhat is that over the years, even since I released my book, a lot of older accounts have surfaced. And some of these accounts are reports that people have found in literature that was published, publications or books or whatnot, years prior to any reports of these things. They don't use the term BEK or black-eyed kid, obviously, but all of the hallmarks of these sightings are in there. And, they'll say, oh, hey, this happened, and, oh, there was this kid, and he had solid black eyes. Sometimes it's in a ghost reporting, or sometimes it's in a UFO account, and these different things. And that kind of intrigues me, because it's just more evidence that, this phenomena has been here for a very long time. It's just that it's changed and morphed with society, and, people started paying attention to one aspect of it in a way that hyped that part of it. So, Brian Bethel, the gentleman who had the encounter in the 1990s, the famous encounter, if you will, he's the one that threw that acronym out there and really sort of created that tagline to, that term to dub these things. But prior to that, there were cases. I cover some of the early ones in my book, but like I said, more have continued to surface over the years.
Mm-hmm. Are they still as creepy? Are people still getting freaked out when these black-eyed kids come up to them and ask them to come inside or to use their phone? Is it the same scenarios you were hearing?
Yeah, it's the same scenarios. That's kind of the hallmark of the encounters, are the level of fear that is generated within the witness and, or, victim, if you will. So that stays consistent. And, as I've talked about before, we have to understand that there is there are a whole range of things going on that we don't completely understand because we're not having the experience ourselves. These people that witness these things, they essentially are traumatized. They're talking about an event that has traumatized them. And you can see it, you can hear it when you talk to them. And, it's hard for someone on the outside to listen to it and say, oh, come on, it was just a kid. But no, it wasn't. When you've got a situation where your eyes are telling you one thing, but your body is signaling something else, it's very confusing. There's a psychological dynamic that goes on. So, these people encounter these kids, and on the surface, they're thinking, oh, this is a little kid who needs help. He needs a phone, he needs a glass of water, whatever he needs. We're sort of conditioned as adults to help this kid. But what happens when that scenario is unfolding, but all your body's warning signs are saying danger, something's wrong, whether it's the hair on the back of the neck going up, whether it's nausea, whether it's, just a growing sense of fear or whatever it is. All these warning signs are going off to these people, so a conflict is created. And that struggle is what a lot of these people describe having such a difficult time with during these encounters.
Mm-hmm. When they are happening, are they happening in the evening? Are they happening at night? Do they happen in the daytime when people are most running around and active?
The greater number of them happen in the evening, early evening. But, as with everything, there are exceptions. So there are a few accounts here and there that happen during the day or early morning hours. But, yeah, the bulk of them are in the evening or even at nighttime.
Mm-hmm. Where are they happening? Because, up here in Canada, there is a lot going on. You know that. But I'm just curious. I've never heard of a black-eyed children story up here in Canada, or people even fearing it. It's not even a topic of discussion. Is it mainly happening in the United States, Dave?
Well, I think with a lot of phenomena in general, you'll find that there are a greater number of accounts in the United States for most things. Now, part of that is that, Canada's a big country, but the population the population density is nowhere near what it is in a lot of the United States. I do have accounts, incidentally, from Canada, not a huge number, but right off, I recall some, at least from Vancouver and Toronto. And maybe a few more locations too. But the point is that, the accounts, they've come from all over the world, but there's certainly a large concentration of them out of the United States. Again, I think that's the case with a lot of phenomena. Now, whether that is because there are more researchers in the United States collecting accounts, that could be part of it. Heck, when I went to Australia a couple of years ago, there were, one of the lectures I did was on the black-eyed kids, and sure enough, there were other researchers that came up and said, I've got a couple of cases of these things. I've heard stories. People came up who were in the audience and said, I saw one of those things. So the incidents are happening all over the world. I think that since a lot of the work initially on them was done here in the States, then that's where we've got the bulk of the sightings at the moment.
Right. David, when people are seeing the black-eyed children, are they having anything ominous happen to them? Are these almost like omen predictors when they come around?
Well, it can be. That's a whole chapter in the book is the question as to whether or not these things are omens, sort of in the vein that the Mothman was, for instance, because there are cases where people encounter these things and afterwards something dreadful happens in their lives, whether it's a relative passing away or whatnot. There's a witness in the book actually who encountered these things and reached out and touched one of these kids and afterwards had a terrible string of things happen. loss of job, loss of relationship, sickness, and all kinds of things. So, there are some indications that they could be sort of harbingers or omens in that sense. But again, this is a phenomenon that crosses a lot of the borders, and that's one of the things that I found intriguing about it when I really delved into it and researched and investigated it, is that you could argue these things are a whole range of, they can be identified as several different things. So, a lot of people believe they're demonic entities, but equally, large number believe, these are some kind of alien human hybrids. But, they share strange connections with the Men in Black, the Jinn, ghost to a degree. So it's a very puzzling whatever that we're dealing with when we look at these accounts.
Unbelievable. That is, out of everything that I've experienced or want to experience, this is one that I can honestly say, Dave, that I have no interest whatsoever in experiencing. And maybe it's just the freakiness that it's children. Maybe it's just the freakiness of the black eyes. I don't know. But I just see these as pure evil. Pure evil.
Yeah, I get that impression too. And, we've talked about this before. When I wrote the book, I didn't set out to convince anybody of any one particular, this is what they are. I wanted everyone to approach it from their own direction and their own research, hopefully, and decide for themselves what they thought these things were. But of course, I'm asked all the time, over the years, I've always been asked what my opinion of these things, what I think they are. And honestly, I think that there's some type of interdimensional entity. The reason I think that they're here is because I believe they feed on energy. When you look at the cases across the board, there is a consistency, and that is that these things show up. They create circumstances that cause a high level of fear to be generated within the victim, and then these kids vanish. This is repeated in so many cases that, you step back, at least I did, I stepped back and said, well, maybe this is the point in and of itself. If we move into some esoteric levels and look at the idea that, the human body generates a lot of energy, we still don't completely understand everything about the human energy field, but we know it's there. And there are a few emotions that spike that energy pretty high. Fear is certainly one of them. So, what if these creatures, whatever they are, because they're not really kids, what if these things feed on that energy? What better way to create that dynamic than by, coming in and creating this psychological conflict that creates this level of fear within a person? And, once they do that, it's kind of like mission accomplished. They leave.
Bill Hauser, who you met up at our Paracon with the ghost box. Yeah, Bill he says, hello, David, and he's in the chat room tonight on Spreaker. His question for you is, are most of the sightings of black-eyed kids in the Portland area? And I'll add to that, are they concentrated in certain areas?
Well, first of all, hey, Bill, it's good to hear from you. Glad you're listening. And no, they are not concentrated in the Portland area. I'm not going to get into that topic. Somebody has created that idea. But, there have been a cluster of sightings in Portland. That is not where the earliest sightings started. And, we could look at any number of cities or locations and say, wow, there's a high number of sightings in this region, concentrated in this area. So I'll kind of leave that at that.
All right, let's get to Nikki's question here in the chat room. Has anyone run the percentages as to exactly the commonalities among the victims, survivors, and witnesses of black-eyed children?
Run the percentages. I mean, when when I wrote the book and was doing all of my initial research on it, which at this point was in, 2010, all the sightings I collected, when I interview witnesses, I have a long series of questions that I ask them, and I look at all of those types of details. Honestly, when I started researching the phenomena, I expected, I tried to go in with no expectations, right? But in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I'll bet you there's going to be a good percentage of these people that report UFOs or that there are UFO sightings in the area at the same time or something like that. But it surprised me because that did not prove to be the case. And when I looked for commonalities, which is something I always do also, when you have a high number of accounts, you're usually going to find at least some connecting links. And when I started doing this, I found that, wow, there's really a wide range of witnesses in terms of their age, their ethnic background, their beliefs, this whole wide range of things, the geographical location. And it was very difficult, honestly, to find a lot of patterns. Over time, a few did emerge. There were a lot of people who worked in some type of position of authority, whether it was law enforcement or military or, a government job. Sometimes has like a hospital administrator, things like that. So you had these people that were sort of had an aspect of authority to their careers. That was a good percentage of the people initially in the early batches of these sightings. And the other pattern that emerged over time is that the greater portion of these people were not actively practicing any kind of religion or spiritual path. Now, I bring that up as interesting because in the aftermath of these encounters, the greater number, and I say probably 90% of the people that I followed up with came back and said that they had gone back to their spiritual roots, or they had embraced some new a different religious faith, and they did that because they were looking for something to give them, in their words, another level of protection or comfort in case these things ever came back. So those are the patterns basically that emerged. Like I said, the initial research done in 2010, so we're talking a good 10 years at this point almost. That maybe somebody dedicated could sit down and do this again and see if there are new patterns.
We got less than a minute to go here before we go to break. At the bottom of the hour, David Weatherly is our guest. Dale is asking, Uncle Dale, that is. He's got a great mustache, Dave. He is asking, has anyone ever pulled a gun on any of these black-eyed kids and blown them all to hell?
No, nobody's ever taken a shot at it. There's people that have grabbed their firearms in the aftermath, but, not used them or anything.
It's weird because whether it's black-eyed children, Dogman, Sasquatch, we've heard it all before with these strange cryptid type tales, Dave. And I won't get your chance to answer right now, but we can after the break. But it's weird how most people who pull a gun on any of these creatures all of a sudden seem to get that telepathic message that it's a good idea to put the weapon down. It's always weird how you hear stories about that. David Weatherly is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, EerieLights.com. David joins us every couple of months to talk about strange cryptids and creatures. We'll continue more with David right after this. Hey, Spaced Out Radio listeners, it's Dave Scott. I want you to check out a great documentary I'm involved in called Beyond the Spectrum, Mosson's UFO Files. Directed by Darcy Weir, the film follows Jaime Mosson's journey for mainstream journalistic truth in ufology in Mexico. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon Prime. If you're a member, watch it free. It's worth the watch.
Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology. Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com. A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch. Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TESA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Good to have you with us. David Weatherly is our guest tonight. We're going to bring him on in a second. I want to remind all of you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can always go to our YouTube channel for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including, if you've had an experience you can't explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. David Weatherly comes in every couple of months to talk about some real eerie cryptid stories that he normally digs up while on investigations around North America. His website is eerielights.com. You can find all of his books on Amazon. He is one of the best writers and researchers on this subject right now. David, welcome back.
Thanks, Dave.
Question for you in regards to some of the more obscure topics. Now, every show you come on, I have to ask you about gnomes because I am still one with the gnomes. You will know this. You will know this.
Good for you.
But I have to tell you, I have this friend, okay? Her name is Shayla, and she approached me the other day, and she's like, I got something weird to tell you. Her and her boyfriend, they live in this house, and it is their master bedroom is surrounded by windows. It has a lower window, and then it's got a little bit of a break before there's an upper window. And her boyfriend happened to be away for the night. And so here she is lying in bed, getting ready for bed, and she looks, and she swears there were little people with their hands pressed against the glass and their eyes looking beyond their hands, kind of like when you're holding binoculars. There was one on the left and one on the right on the bottom level. She said it was like they couldn't reach that upper level, but they were looking in. And she got so freaked out about it. The next day she went out there. There were no footprints, no tracks, no nothing. But she's like, I swear that this happened. It freaked me out. I was home alone. They live out way in the wilderness, and you know, Dave, from being up here, there is a lot of room in between houses. People just don't go stalking other people. It's not like living in the city here, and because everybody has a gun too. So nonetheless, when you have those little people / gnome problems, what would they be peering in for?
Dave, I love that story, and if there's any way that I can get that account, you know, I've been collecting these things for years, and will be a project at some point involving the little people. But, you know, these stories are just extremely fascinating. And I think that, you know, I understand that people are sort of, you know, alarmed some of the times, especially in the circumstances you're talking about. Here's a person alone. You know, she's home alone. She has this weird encounter. But, you know, I think for the most part, these are not dangerous situations or anything. Rather, you know, to me, this account seems like something was very curious. You know, maybe they were drawn by the lights or whatever. It's hard to comment in depth on the case without knowing a lot of the details, you know, the area and so forth. But you have to remember that accounts of the little people really do come from all over the world. And, you know, they go far, far back in various cultures, you know, tribal traditions and so forth. And the core of these stories is that we're talking about people, these little people were more in touch with the natural world. You know, they're often called nature spirits. They, you know, are known to live in the woods and the wilds and, you know, probably left to some degree. You know, a lot of the old tales say that they went into their dimension. You know, countless stories of people being carried into the world of the Fae, you know, the wee folk and so forth, and journeying into that other level of existence. But I think, again, we're talking about dimensional openings that these things come through. I really do. You know, quantum science is finally coming around to this concept that there are other dimensions of existence. And when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense in terms of much of the folklore that we hear about these little people, because it seems like they show up, you know, people see them, but then they're just gone. You know, how did they, you know, did the person imagine something, or did these other beings, these entities, did they just leave somehow? You know, did they go through a portal or a doorway or whatever? So it's a fascinating account. I actually have a fair number of them that are similar to this, where people are living in remote areas, you know, kind of off to themselves, and they encounter little people, whether they're, you know, whether they see them when they're walking in the woods or out on their property or whatever. So it could be, again, that these wee folk were just fascinated, and maybe they were drawn to the house or the lights, or, you know, the energy or the activity of the person inside. It could be any number of things. And I don't know whether she's listening or not, but I almost hesitate to say it, but I have to say that it's probably not the only time they've come around that house. You know, they probably exist out in that area they probably have existed in that area for a very long time. And now they're just sort of checking out the neighborhood, so to speak.
A lot of the First Nations up here believe that they are tricksters. They are little minds that should not be messed with. And if they're taking things of yours, you need to give them a gift so they return it. You had that happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a common theme, yeah, that you hear all over. Now, you don't always hear that they're tricksters, but that's often the case to some degree. Now, often it's because they have their land or something of theirs has been intruded on or interfered with, or something has happened to upset them. That's if the encounters start to sort of spike, or things start to happen, you know, strange things start to happen. So there are a lot of ways that you can sort of peacefully negotiate with these entities. And actually, you have to understand that if you build a good relationship with them, they can be protected, because they'll keep negative energies or negative things away. There was a case that I had quite a few years ago now, and you'll love this, Dave. It involved gnomes, and it involved someone on a property a very remote area in the United States, who they started having a lot of strange things happen. They had moved into this property that had been abandoned for some time. It wasn't in poor condition or anything, but they had to go in and sort of fix it up. They did some things in the yard and on the property, and then they started having strange things happen. They started having things disappear around the outside of the house, And then, some things out of their back, they had like a walk-in mud room, where the laundry was kept. And they started having these weird things happen. And I had been to the property myself, and I talked to these people. And then finally, after talking to them several times, because I asked all the common questions, and they thought, they were kind of implying it was some poltergeist activity or something like that. That didn't fit when I started looking into the case. And I finally got this guy to admit, away from the rest of his family and, everyone else, and only just he and I talking, I knew there was something else. And he finally came out and admitted, he said, I saw a gnome. And I said, okay. And he really sort of tested the waters. He just sort of spit it out. He tested the waters. He thought, I guess he expected me to laugh or walk away or something. And I said, okay, tell me about it. And he, told me in details. And he saw, what he described as a gnome, and this little man who he thought had run off with a piece of his gardening equipment. And I said, okay, now this makes sense. We can approach this in a different way. And I started looking at the things they had done on the property. And they had caused some disturbance in a certain area of the property that clearly seemed to be what instigated these incidents that began to occur. And I said, okay, you have, if we break this down and kind of, I know you're freaked out by the gnome idea. I said, take them out of the equation for the moment and let's just call them nature spirits or energies and say, you've kind of thrown things out of balance by doing this. So you can balance it by doing these things. I gave him a set of things to do and, basically peace offerings to these little people, and the activity completely stopped. And they ended up, they still live there. They've had a great experience living there. They had an incident where they have a couple of dogs that little dogs that they let outside all the time, and they had an incident once where these dogs were outside. The family was all in the house, and there was this huge racket outside that caused him to run to the door to see what was going on. And he didn't see right away what had caused all the loud clanging noises, but what he did see was a large, I think he said it was a bobcat or a lynx, essentially, running out of the yard because the noise had startled it. And apparently this thing had been stalking his two little dogs. And he told me about the whole story, and I said, okay, well, what caused this loud noise that attracted you to come outside? And he said, that was really strange. We had these old cans that were sitting, outside the house in this, around this open shed. And he said, those cans have sat there for years and they've never been knocked over, but something caused all those cans to knock over. He said, I know it wasn't one of the animals because there were no tracks that led up to these cans. He said, but I did see one really strange thing. It almost looked like a little footprint. And I said, there you go. You've made peace with these little people. I said, they were either trying to alarm you or tried to protect your dogs by alerting them and scaring this lynx away from your yard.
Wow. I don't know how I would feel if I found a bunch of little footprints on my property. Even though I am one with the gnomes, a good friend of mine, First Nations here, Danny, he was telling me a story a couple months ago, Dave, about how all of his mother's jewelry started disappearing. And she had seen one of the little people in their house. And so what had happened was Danny sat up one night and he made a bunch of little hats and little jewelry for the little people. along with a food offering and tobacco, and very, very polite, as First Nations usually are. And he took the plate upstairs and put it in an area where the jewelry was supposed to be. And a couple hours later, he said, we were sitting downstairs watching TV, and we could hear the rustling upstairs in the house. Next thing they know, they go upstairs and check what's going on. All the little trinkets that Danny made were gone, and all the jewelry was back.
Yeah.
Amazing how that works.
Yeah.
Amazing how that works. And, then I think, go ahead.
Yeah, well, if we consider the age of these accounts, most tribal traditions talk about these beings being here before humans, so they really kind of predate us. And, it's the tribal people oftentimes that will, whether it's this country or other countries, who show at least some respect to these entities and say, we have to be respectful, or otherwise they will be tricksters, they will be troublesome, and so forth. So, I think that it's important to honor those traditions and say, hey, we are dealing with something that was here before us. So let's open our perspective and take a different approach to it.
I know. It's just weird. 6.5 minutes to go before we go to break at the top of the hour. David Weatherly is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. David, if somebody is having issues with little people, do they go and contact their local Indigenous group? Do they go talk to a paranormal investigator? What do they do in case they're encountering this?
Well, I always encourage people to, document the incidents. If it's a sighting, of course, directly, then they know, consciously, oh, this is what I saw, this is what I think's here. But contact someone either who has some knowledge in this area. I am always more than happy to hear these accounts, I tell you, because, Dave, as I said earlier, I've been collecting these stories for years. So I'll throw that out there. Anybody listening who has accounts of these, little people in whatever area it is, please contact me and share your story. And there's a contact page on my website, eerielights.com. So contact me directly there. But, in general, I tell people, if this is what you think you're dealing with, no, I wouldn't suggest you go to a paranormal group. The good number of these people just deal with hauntings, and the approach has to be different, or it will stir up more trouble and more problems. So certainly contact someone who is knowledgeable in this field of the topic of little people. And it's always good to contact Indigenous people if you have connections in the area and say, at least find out, hey, does this nation have legends of little people in this region, and what are the stories? Just doing a little research on your own will give you a lot of clues to help you understand what you may potentially be dealing with. But don't leap to any conclusions. If you've seen something yourself directly, then certainly you have a good idea of what you're dealing with potentially. But get some basic knowledge and talk to someone who hopefully knows what they're talking about.
Because people get so creeped out, whether it's little people, whether it's Sasquatch, Dogman, UFOs, aliens hanging out at the window, wherever it may be, even ghosts. People get so freaked out, it takes them a while to calm down and try and figure out what is going on. The last thing they are is going through the yellow pages of Google and trying to find, the closest ghost hunting team or what have you. But when somebody has an experience like this, is it best to remain calm, relax, and try and remember everything, write it down? Would that be the first steps that we do?
Absolutely. Write it down as quickly as you can. If all else fails, hit the audio record button on your phone and just recount exactly what happened, because you can always send that audio file to an investigator like myself or something. And then absolutely try to remain calm about it. Talk to someone who will calm you down, a friend. Even if you don't tell them exactly what happened, just talk to somebody to get yourself in a calm state if you need to do that. But otherwise, choose your steps carefully, because I tell you, I can't reiterate this strongly enough. There aren't a lot of people who are studying this topic. And on the flip side, we have a lot of paranormal teams who lead to the conclusion that everything is demonic, or that they are experts in everything. And a lot of times with these little people cases, a team like that can come in and make things much, much worse. They absolutely can, because, they might come in and try to banish it, or, do an exorcism or any number of things. And, then it compounds the problem much, much more. And it leaves the witness with a very bad situation after that. So you can't just suddenly throw, whatever at the situation and think it's going to fix it.
No, I can see that. But does every case, as we got about a minute and a half left here, does every case differ? So, for instance, if you're dealing with gnomes and little people, how different is it from, say, dealing with Bigfoot in your backyard, or an alien at your window, whatever it may be, even ghosts in your house?
Well, there are certain commonalities in terms of, just the bare fact that here we have a person who has had an experience most likely outside the boundaries of their normal day-to-day existence. So, in those terms, we've got commonalities. But then when we get down to the individual case, I like to say that everyone is an individual case. Everyone is different, and, it has to be approached in a unique manner. I like to have a lot of details. I like to see the location if I can. I ask a lot of questions and, really dig in before just throwing things at it. But, again, back to what we were talking about earlier, Dave, this, the Twitter-minded world wants an answer in 120 characters, and that doesn't work. You can't just throw something generic at every case of strange phenomena and say, oh, this will fix it. We'll do a house clearing or an exorcism, or, I'll run my K2 meter, blah, 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 and we'll get you the answers. No, it doesn't work that way.
Very understandable indeed. David, we're going to get you to hold on here, because we got about 30 seconds before we got to go to break here at the top of the hour. Always interesting to listen to your take. And I'll be honest, even though I am one with the gnomes now, Dave, I still get a little bit of the heebie-jeebies when I hear you talk about them, especially with my friend Shayla. You got to call me
when the little footprints show up.
Well, you know what? I'm going to talk to her again tomorrow, because I will be seeing her tomorrow in town when I'm up in town doing my chillax thing that I do during the day. But nonetheless, I will talk to her about it tomorrow, and I will say, hey, you got to talk to David Weatherly. Tell him the experience of what's happening. I will definitely do that for you. David, you hold on. We're going to get the audience to hold on as well. Hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio is right around the corner. More Monster Talk with David Weatherly. EerieLights.com coming on up.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot THAL. Come tune in to SOR, where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com, where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com, and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Come hang out with Spaced Out Radio, where we own the night. This is Carl. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and during the show, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to chat with us live. On Instagram, at Dave Scott SOR. On Facebook, give our page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. SOR archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. Come join us, or I will come join you. See you at your window.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Canada's largest UFO conference is ready to roll in Toronto this September 21st and 22nd at the Alien Cosmic Expo. This year is about the experience. Listen to the stories of Dave Scott, Travis Walton, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Ryan Stacey, Richard Dolan, Leslie Mitchell-Clark, and more. Get your tickets now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Hey fans, it's Dave Scott. Do I have something for you to check out? A great documentary about legendary Mexican investigative journalist Jaime Maussan and his search for the truth about UFOs. Beyond the Spectrum, Maussan's UFO files can be found on Amazon Prime. It's free to watch if you're a member. You might even hear me in it. So check out Beyond the Spectrum, only on Amazon Prime.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacey, head of the Research Association, TESA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Hi to everyone listening in on WQEE 99.1 FM in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead, UPRN 107.7 FM in New Orleans, KZFX 93.7 FM in Ridgecrest, California. We're on KDNF AM 1560 in Dangerfield, Texas, and down in Reedsport, Oregon, KDUN AM 1030. Also on the digital side, we welcome in everyone listening in on Kingdom of Nye Radio and Revolution Radio. Good to have you with us. Don't forget, you can check out all of our archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Vehiculation. Vehiculation is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's get to David Weatherly, shall we? We only got him till the bottom of the hour, and David comes in every couple of months to talk about the weird, strange, cryptid stories that he is following around, researching. He's one of the best in North America. His website, eerielights.com. You want to check that out. All of his books can be found on Amazon as well. David, thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Hey, always good to be on, man.
Absolutely, my friend. Now, in your travels in 2019, I already asked you what's your most interesting story that you've got, but are you noticing trends East Coast to West Coast? Because I know on the East, they're very hot over the Dogman. They're very hot on UFOs right now. The paranormal is starting to pick up because of all these new shows that are popping up on all the special interest channels out there. What's happening in the East comparatively to the West?
Yeah, I think you have clusters of different phenomena that people are picking up on, but some of that is just because of, particular focus. As you're saying, there's a lot of people that are still hot on this Dogman topic, and, accounts are still coming in very much so from the Midwest, Ohio, Pennsylvania, that region. Some from the South and Kentucky, Tennessee, but overall, I think that the phenomena, if you kind of open your eyes and ears and really start talking to people, again, all of these accounts are on the rise. I spent a lot of time in Hawaii this spring, and there's so many accounts out of the islands that people just, on the mainland just don't hear about. But the activity there, just like everywhere else I journey to, seems to be on the rise. And it's across the board. There's an increase in UFO sightings, in reports of haunted activity, in reports of cryptids and everything else. So, it's interesting times we're living in. I think part of it is that people are just more conscious of these things and more willing to talk about their strange encounters. But I also think that there's something else going on, too. I don't know exactly what it is or necessarily how to define it, but, we seem to be moving into an era where a lot of what was previously the paranormal or the supernatural is becoming more a part of the natural world, so to speak, because they're becoming regular occurrences.
Mm-hmm. The reason why I asked that is recently you wrote a post about the haunted woodland cemetery in Dayton, Ohio. It's on your website, eerielights.com, if people want to check it out. What's going on at this haunted cemetery?
Oh, that's a very old cemetery that has long had some various haunted legends there. There's a little girl that shows up sitting on a tombstone. Nobody seems to know exactly what the origin of her story is. There's the sound of kids' laughter in this at this location, and it's a place that's had a lot of local legends attached to it for many years. But in recent years, there are even more accounts, and I know some researchers will say, no, cemeteries aren't haunted. Why would someone hang around there? Well, you have to consider that some of these historic locations, there are certain things that maybe connect the people to those spots, whether it's just the area or, whatnot. So this is one of those places where there seems to be some interesting local folklore, but also some valid sightings and encounters that people have had in the cemetery itself. And it's a really cool place. It's a historic cemetery. I checked it out and investigated it a few times years ago when I lived in the area out there. And, again, you can, I guess I can find weird things no matter where on the planet you drop me. So, whether it's a haunted location or whatnot. That was a story that I had written it previously for the old blog, and I had so many people asking me about it that I just kind of polished it up and added a couple of recent encounters into it and put it up on the new website. And it's funny you bring it up because I've had several people ask me about that one.
The reason why I ask it is because we were talking last night with Mike Morin, Mike, and Amber Beckerud. They were on last night for Ghost of the Great White North. And even earlier on this week, where people seem to be having a real issue these days with paranormal investigators going into cemeteries. That seems to be one of the new pet peeves that's out there. Are you in agreement with that, or do you think a cemetery should be off limits, Dave?
Oh, that's a tough question. I mean, one of the big problems that happens is, and this has been going on for quite a few years, one of the big problems is that a lot of these, quote, teams, and I use that term loosely, get together and they want to investigate, but they don't have any money or, they don't want to travel or whatever, and they do things that are just not kosher in any way, shape, or form. We've got people we've got cases where people have broken into buildings, abandoned buildings or abandoned homes because they've heard stories about it being haunted. We've got situations where these teams are going into cemeteries after hours when it's not an open area, when it's closed at dark. And, they're just not being respectful in any way, nor are they obeying the law. And that makes everyone else in the field look bad, unfortunately, because, then you get these stories in the news about the ghost hunters who, broke into a building or, vandalized a cemetery. Well, there's been a few cases where these guys have went in and they've done just absurd things. You know, it was a case where a quote team went into a cemetery and they were doing things like, you know, putting stuff on the, you know, the headstones and, you know, just very disrespectful things. And at some point, you know, stumbling around in the dark, they had knocked a really old headstone over and caused it to crack. So it's really kind of disgusting from my perspective to see these people acting like this. You know, there are plenty of opportunities in this day and age to investigate places. There are some places that you can go and investigate for free, but you have to follow the rules. You have to look at the letter of the law, and you have to be respectful. That's all there is to it. You know, it's the same thing when it comes to doing ITC work. You know, our buddy Bill, who was, if he's still listening, you know, I know he does a lot of that, but there are some really shady characters in the field who do ITC work, and, you know, as soon as someone passes away that is known in the media, they'll jump on YouTube and film a video. Oh, I've just contacted, you know, such and such who passed away 2 hours ago, you know, and it's just, it's kind of disgusting. You're not giving the family time to grieve. You're not being respectful in any way. I don't believe.
And a lot of it is vandalism too. The disrespect, not only for the spirits, but, you know, the vandalism of knocking over headstones. And we talk about that, and as disgusting as it is, unfortunately, it is happening. People have been caught doing this, Dave. People have been caught going into illegal buildings or private buildings, and there was just a case in the United Kingdom where a couple of paranormal investigators were arrested for break and enter because there was a rumor the man who died in the home that he was a murderer while he was alive, and this continues to happen.
There's been a lot of these cases. There have been cases where investigators have, you know, not always intentionally, but where they've, you know, caused heavy damage to historic buildings, you know, because they weren't following the rules. They weren't following the law. You know, they broke in. There have been, there was several years ago, there was a location that got set on fire, you know, because these investigators went in, they had candles or something. And, you know, there's just things that, you know, at the very least, you know, be respectful if you're going to investigate and follow some basic rules and common sense, for crying out loud. But, yeah, you know, unfortunately, we have all sides of it. I mean, we have people who are in the field who want to try to practice various types of conjuring or ritual or, you know, witchcraft or whatever during their investigations, and they do damage. And it's just, it's not good for anybody. It really isn't. And if they get caught, you know, which I always hope that they do, if they get caught, they often get, you know, penalties and in some cases even jail time. So, you know, if you want to investigate, just get connected with a valid team and do things the right way.
You also wrote recently, earlier this month, about the grinning man. This cannot be good.
Oh, the grinning man. Have we never talked about the grinning man on the show?
We have never talked about the grinning man on the show.
Oh, well. So I thought we had. That's strange. So I wrote about the grinning man in Strange Intruders because I saw one of these things. Now, my account that's in the book occurred in North Carolina many, many years ago. And I'll give you the short version of this. I had a friend who he has since passed away, but he was one of those people that he and I would go hang out and you know, check out different locations and do things. And it was just the right combination of energy because things always seemed to happen. And we had we had taken a long drive. This was in North Carolina, not far from the Virginia state line. We had actually been in Virginia, and we were driving back to North Carolina along a canal road. And this is, at the time, was a remote area, not a lot of houses at all. The ones that were there were pretty far, spread out. And an area that was lots of trees, lots of dense trees. There was, as the name implies, a canal that ran along one side of the road, and in parts of the highway, the canal was separated from the road by some crops of trees and sometimes high weeds and so forth. We're coming down this canal road. He was driving. I was in the passenger seat. And I'm looking ahead of us as we're talking, and I see a figure standing on the side of the road. Now, this is bizarre in and of itself. All the times we had taken that drive, I'd never seen anybody out there. And I'm kind of, at that point, obviously, I know something is at the least unusual, and I'm locking my eyes on this figure. I said something to Tom, and we're both watching this figure as we're getting closer to it. He's on the passenger side of the vehicle, standing off the road in some high grass. And as we're getting closer, I see that he is wearing a long coat. He has on a top hat, and he has one of his hands sort of up under his chin, and he's rubbing his fingers and thumb together. And beneath this long coat that he has on, I see enough to see that he has a really shiny belt, this large shiny belt. Now, as we approach this thing, Dave, I'm looking at this character, and the best way I can describe it is not the white skin, but the bizarre, exaggerated grin that the Batman villain, the Joker, has. This, what appeared to be, in other respects, a human being, had this abnormally large grin, and it was very unsettling to see this bizarre smile. And he was staring directly into the car at us. Now, as we approached this figure, this weird thing happened where, time seemed to move in a different fashion because it seemed to slow down. And I was staring directly at this figure as we passed by. I'm looking at first through the windshield. As we get closer and right up on him, I'm looking out the passenger window, and he's looking directly in the vehicle at us. As soon as we pass him, I whipped my head back around the other way so I could look out of the rear view window of the car, the rear window of the car, and in that brief portion of a second, this figure had moved. He's now standing in the center of the road, watching us drive away. Now,
oh my goodness!
I started yelling at Tom to stop the car. We went around a curve. I'm still, I'm on with him. Just stop the car. I want to see what's going on. And he's on this whole test. Some psycho. The guy's probably a killer. It's like Friday the 13th, it's just all these reasons. And I finally convinced him. I'm like, look, just turn the car around, go back to the curb. We'll just see if he's still there, I finally convinced him to do that. He turns around, makes a U-turn, and goes back around the curve. We're looking, we don't see this figure up ahead, and we can see the area where he was. Tom stops the car, and I jumped out. And I ran down to the location, and Tom was blowing the horn. He's yelling at me to come back. And, I went down to the location where this character was, and he's just completely vanished. He's nowhere in sight. And the area where this character was standing, there was clearly an impression in the weeds that that looked like someone was standing there, but there's just nowhere for this character to have gone. There's nowhere at all. Even the colors, he was wearing dark colors, and this was, the grass was just very pale, tan. I mean, even that would have stood out. I'm scanning the tree line thinking, could he possibly have run that fast? Even if he had, the trees are dense. There's no way. And it was such a bizarre encounter. I later went and I knew John Keel at the time. And, of course, people hopefully listening know who he was, the writer of the Mothman Prophecies, most famous for that, but a number of other books. And Keel was, one of the people that I still greatly respect his work in the field. I went to Keel because he had chronicled a number of cases, what he called the grinning man. And this grinning man figure, he documented a case in New Jersey where it showed up, some other cases where people had seen these things in their homes. And, there were other cases that over the years I've learned about here and there. But, the thing was that Keel said, look for other cases, look for other incidents during the time frame that you saw this thing. Now, I had already pursued this because I thought, it's bound to be something else happened. Now, this encounter that I had, this was in the 1980s. So again, it's that, PG era, pre-Google,
Mm-hmm.
not the time frame you could just jump on the internet and find a whole bunch of other things. So, I dug in, I made some calls, I looked all over the place and, contacted everybody I could think of to see, is there anything else that's gone on around this same time? Any other sightings, anything else? But there was nothing. And the thing was that there was another component to this story because that night after we had that encounter, we both went home, and I kind of set in my mind I'm going back to that area myself. This week to investigate even further. I'm thinking, maybe I'll try to go door to door, the houses or whatever I can find to see if anybody's had any other encounters. But I'm sitting there thinking about this at home, and the telephone rings. It's Tom, and he says, "You're not going to believe what's happened. The house next door just got hit by lightning." And I'm thinking, well, that's really bizarre. What a strange thing to happen after seeing this grinning man that, the house next door to Tom's catches on fire. What are the odds of that happening? And, even later that night, it became even stranger because another friend of mine called me, knew I was interested in unusual things. And he said that he and his sister and mother, as I recall, had seen a UFO. Now, it was in the region, the same town, but it wasn't like it was right on top of where this grinning man thing had happened or anything else like that. So, right. I told Keel about all this stuff, and he said, "Well, you gotta dig some more, and you'll find other stuff." He said, "I bet you will." And eventually I did. I found some other cases here and there that were kind of similar. There was a woman who reported seeing what she described as being a hobo clown running around this remote area at night. And she said, and that's how she described it. She said, it looked like an old hobo, the way he was dressed with a long coat and a shabby hat. But he had this weird smile that it was like it was painted on him.
Oh my
goodness. And I'm thinking that's a grinning man again, So these figures, there's not it's one of these things in the field, Dave, that is just intriguing enough to nag at a researcher a little bit. And of course,
I can see that.
Obviously this really fascinates me because I saw one of the daggone things. But, at the same time, it's not like we have, thousands of cases, but there are enough cases to say, why? It's not one anomalous case. It's several dozen or whatever over the years. What exactly is this about?
Dave, on that note, it's a great way to end the show with you. Thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio, buddy.
Always a pleasure, my friend. You enjoy your night, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, SOR Newswire next.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you having encounters with the paranormal, supernatural, or ufological that you cannot explain? Look no further than the SOR Sightlines Report, brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. This is Ryan Stacy, head of the Research Association, TESA. Soon on the Spaced Out Radio website, you'll be able to file your reports and have them researched for you. We are independent and ready to help Spaced Out Radio listeners today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot THAL, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Hey, Spaced Out Radio listeners, it's Dave Scott. I want you to check out a great documentary I'm involved in called Beyond the Spectrum, Mosson's UFO Files. Directed by Darcy Weir, the film follows Jaime Mosson's journey for mainstream journalistic truth in ufology in Mexico. Beyond the Spectrum can be found on Amazon Prime. If you're a member, watch it free. It's worth the watch. Come get spooked at the 4th Annual Forest Moon Paracon in Cedar-Woolley, Washington, Saturday, September 28th. UFOs, ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. Speakers include Mike Morin and Jason Jordan, R. Keith Andrews, and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and so much more. There will be workshops and a VIP roundtable. Get early bird tickets now at fmparacon.com.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch. Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today. Coming up this September 21st and 22nd, all UFO eyes will be focused on Toronto for the 4th Annual Alien Cosmic Expo. Come listen to some of the biggest names and experiencers in ufology. Travis Walton, Paul Hellyer, Richard Dolan, Paula Harris, Grant Cameron, Randy Kramer, and Spaced Out Radio's own Dave Scott. Tickets are on sale now at aliencosmicexpo.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do. Bye!
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, hanging out with all of you from the frozen Canadian tundra. Thank you so much for joining us. Reminder to all of you, if you've missed most of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot, fill out a Sightlines report if you've seen something weird, and read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Speaking of the Newswire, let's get to it. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the back end of the show, the SOR Newswire. We get to the strange, the weird, the odd that kind of keep us scratching our heads here. You can find it all at spacedoutradio.com. And Captain Shirk updates it daily, which is really nice. She does a fantastic job. A California photographer taking drone video of some hydrofoilers captured some real scary close encounters of the great white kind. Matt Larman said he was taking drone video about 5 p.m. yesterday. People hydrofoiling, riding electric surfboards off Capistrano Beach in Dana Point, California. And they didn't even know they were approached by a group of great white sharks. Larman said he couldn't warn the surfers because they were about a quarter of a mile offshore. The photographer said the sharks were remarkably ambivalent about the presence of humans. It was almost like they could care less they were there. One of the clips I have, the guy being towed by the jet ski they were going by and went past a 6 to 7 footer about 5-6 feet away. and the shark could really care less if they went right past him. The sharks were being really mellow. Larmond says the sharks even ignored one man who fell off his board. I was freaking out, he said. I was like, he has no idea there's a great white shark right next to him. He's just sitting there. He had no clue. I'd be freaking out if I was him. Just insane to watch. See, this is why I don't go in the ocean. Okay? This is why I don't do it. You don't know what's underneath. Kraken, megalodon, great white sharks, killer whales, a pissed off octopus. You just don't know. Not for me, man. Not for me. Land is so much better. So much better. Be damned if I'm going to get on one of those hydrofoilers either. I'm food. King County, Washington Safeway employees are accustomed to an occasional spider looking in their bunches of bananas, but they were quite shocked to find over $500,000 worth of cocaine hidden in boxes of bananas they were arranging in the store's back room. The Safeway employees called police after discovering the substance hidden in the boxes of fruit. King County Sheriff's Office tested contents of the packages and confirmed they had uncovered 48 pounds of cocaine worth approximately $550,000. It became even bigger law enforcement investigation as two more Safeway stores in Western Washington also found cocaine hidden in their shipments of bananas. Washington state officials are estimating the total worth of cocaine from the three Safeways is over $1 million. The sheriff's office stated this is an ongoing investigation. Detectives do not know yet where the bananas came from, but they are pursuing leads to determine the source. American eels are washing up dead on the shores of northern Lake Champlain, and biologists are investigating what's killing them. Vermont Fish and Wildlife Department fisheries biologist Bernie Pientka said people started seeing the eels over the last few weeks, with about 15 of the creatures reported dead on the lakeshore from Swanton, south of Milton. It's not clear yet what's causing them to die off. He says, we really don't know. We're trying to get some samples over the next period of time. The challenge is that often when we get the reports of them washing up, they're already far decomposed, which makes all kinds of figuring out why pretty challenging. An invasive nematode, whatever the heck that is, has harmed eel populations in the U.S. Southeast, so that may be a cause. He also went on to say other fish species in the lake do not seem to be affected, so low oxygen levels or pollution are not likely factors. Adult eels have a complicated life cycle. They grow up to 3 feet long, then migrate to the Sargasso Sea in the Atlantic Ocean in the late summer and fall to spawn. The migrating eels undergo physiological changes to adapt to salt water and the ocean depths. They are thought to use some of the deep water currents to get to the spawning areas, so they'll basically have to adjust to that higher pressure. Eels are rugged creatures, though, and can even survive on land for a time when migrating. They're usually about to go around some areas on land in wet weather. Biologists have found eels in multiple lakes up the watershed from the ocean. It's kind of amazing, Pientka says, that they can get up that far. Moving on. Let's head to Brazil, where President Jair Bolsonaro says that the government lacks the resources to fight wildfires right now in the Amazon rainforest after satellite images showed a record number of burning spots this year. Yeah, the president said the government is investigating the fires, which are being considered the Amazon's worst fire season since records began. The president also backtracked on previous claims that non-governmental organizations were starting fires in the forest, saying he was only talking of his suspicions. His comments came as the fires were being blamed on farmers and loggers who felt emboldened by President Jair Bolsonaro's pro-rancher policies. In the last 7 days or more, over 9,500 fires have ripped through Brazil's dense rainforest, and activists claim most of them have been set by men working in the jungle, clearing land for cattle and logging. Despite Bolsonaro's claims that uncontrollable blazes are frequent during the Queimada The annual slash and burn, an 84% increase on last year, cannot be attributed to the dry season alone. It is very difficult to have natural fires in the Amazon. It happens, but the majority come from the hands of humans. Paulo Mutino, co-founder of the Amazon Environmental Research Institute, said, this is just disastrous, some of these. And this is already an endangered forest. 9,500. Wow. Heading further south, stardust found in freshly melted snow from Antarctica by Australian scientists contains a large amount of a rare isotope not found on Earth. Experts say there is no chance that the iron-60 isotope was made by humans, suggesting instead that it was delivered to Earth by an impact from a space rock. Iron-60 has 4 more neutrons than iron and can be found in the Earth's crust, but is not normally found in our atmosphere. Scientists suggest that a rock containing the material from a star that exploded millions of years ago must have impacted the Earth's atmosphere. This would have scattered the stardust when it then fell to the ground when captured in flakes of snow. Making these measurements is difficult, says Bernard Puker Ehrenbrink, a geochemist from Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. He goes on to say, you're essentially counting individual atoms. Researchers melted about 1,100 pounds of snow from Antarctica. Examining what was left behind, they ruled out the creation of iron-60 from nuclear power plants and weapons tests, finding only a small amount could make it to the South Pole. They then also studied other isotopes to rule out iron-60 generated by cosmic rays after interacting with dust or meteorites. Interstellar meteorites are rare, according to Avi Loeb, an astronomer at Harvard, but the smaller the object size is, the more abundant it is. With this in mind, researchers say the source of iron-60 must be a supernova. It's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. All right, let's move on here. It's not like it's the most glamorous story we've told, but we're going to tell it anyways. Because we all know, everybody knows what climate change is, correct? But scientists may have finally found a way to save the planet from one of the most harmful bioproducts, the methane-releasing burps and farts of gassy cows. Yeah, gassy cows are responsible for 14.5% of global greenhouse gas emissions, with cattle accounting for about 65% of the output. Now, researchers in Australia say they've discovered that a tropical pink algae called Asparagopsis can almost completely neutralize the stomach acid that causes cows to burp. When added to cow feed at less than 2% of the dry matter, this particular seaweed completely knocks out methane production, says aquaculture biologist Nick Paul from the University of the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. It contains chemicals that reduce the microbes in cows' stomachs that cause them to burp when they eat grass. And heck, we all know how much grass a cow can down. Gee whiz, that is a lot. Nonetheless, the teams are now working on ways to find sustainably mass-produce the seaweed, with the goal of creating a cow feed on a national and global scale. They say the biggest challenge is finding the ideal growing conditions to move the crops from the lab to the large outdoor tanks. That's where it gets a little bit difficult. Yeah. Can you imagine? Every country has cows, man. Every country has cows. How do you knock them down? I don't know. But it is something that they got to check out. Totally check out. So they're checking it on out. That's what they're doing. Hopefully they could figure it out, because I know, coming from farming communities, the stench is horrible. It's horrible. So we'll see where it goes. Finally tonight, an emu on the loose in North Carolina for about 2 months was caught on camera in a wooded area, and authorities say they are closing in on the flightless bird. The emu, dubbed Eno by fans, was caught on video by a witness this week who spotted the Australian bird running loose in the Orange County wooded area. Officials say in late July, Eno, first spotted in late June, was wandering Orange County after spending some time in Chatham County. County officials say the authorities are closing in on him. Orange County Animal Services asked residents to give Eno the emu some space. He is settling down in a specific area where we have been leaving food and water, they said. As he gets more comfortable, it will be easier to corral him safely. If you see him, do not approach. His feet are armed and dangerous. And with that, let's get to the thought of the day. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. What are your thoughts on the connection between UFOs and aliens, paranormal, and the cryptid world? We had some great responses to this today, so we're going to get to them. Starting off with Mark on Twitter. He thinks different species, or make that's different spices in the same gumbo. Wonder if we can eat it, though. Barther. They are all the same worlds. People just choose to form. They are the most comfortable with imagining. We live in a simulation, so everything we imagine is woo. Philly. They all use portals that are possible inside the areas of the Earth's magnetic field that are highest in positive energy. Those of you who are eye-rolling should Google NASA discovers portals /Xbots 2012, then ask yourselves why that wasn't on every major news broadcast for weeks. Eric. One big cryptid could take on a dozen little grays, WWE style, scatter them all sideways, and systematically pound them senseless with a folding chair, brother. Hold on. Let's get to that. With a folding chair, brother. It also is a big show. You're either in or you're out, brother. That's just the way it is. Chris. Oftentimes, it's entertainment to fool stupid people buying badly written sci-fi books masquerading as historic tell-alls. Daniel, it's all part of electromagnetism. Joe, doesn't matter. No empirical proof of any of it. 4 times 0 still equals 0. Foya Boy, consciousness and window areas. Okay. Big Sister, all the same source, just different energies. That could very well be. Quantex, our human perception, awareness, and acceptance of other dimensions hasn't developed to its full potential yet. David, some of the aliens, being more innately psychic than we are more fully aware and cognizant of the higher dimensions to which we can ascend upon death. They know the body is clothing and have tech to use that advantageously. It doesn't make them interdimensionals, though. A51S. UFOs could carry these cryptids, or the cryptids are back-engineered genetic experiments to see if we actually evolved from said species like Bigfoot, fish, and now ETs and ghosts. Why? Well, not exactly, because I need to get them recorded. And then he goes on to say, they have 2 instances on the spirit box. He's talking about ghost adventures here. I can make a meaning of something that is entirely what they say. From my own experience and their awesome lines of proof, there could be a possibility this unseen side-by-side dimension death is aliens enslaving us because we're internal souls. That is deep. Very deep. WGAFA. Don't know what that means, but we're going to read it out. It's all the unknown. There's loads more to this world than we know. We only see and recognize a fraction. Rocks. Bigfoot is really a Wookiee. Julianne. Maybe there's something we're supposed to learn when we die. The Borg. UFOs and aliens have not visited Earth, so Well, I think many would disagree with that. James, man creates monsters to give his fears validation. Okay. Cajun medicine man. Natives have always known, respect the spirit, capture and remove the Wanagi ska, avoid the elementals, and those that come from the sky, keep your distance. The old ways was not to share the medicines, herbs, physically way of capturing and removing bad spirits, traveling into the unseen world, protection. The old ones' prophecies are coming. Ronnie, they use a translucent state of matter to venture into dangerous areas. When they fully materialize, they can harm or be harmed. Humans call these events sightings and encounters. Wow, that's kind of deep. Let's move on to Facebook. Shall we? Let's. Joshua, it's all extreme. LOL. Not quite sure what that means, but okay. Debbie, Bigfoot is connected to aliens and UFOs, possibly many other cryptids as well. Also, from my experiences, shadow beings are seen before and after a UFO sighting. Tom, I believe that the recent flurry of UFO, possibly extraterrestrial activity, 50 years worth, has brought with it a thinning of the veil, and that it has opened up communication with the world of some spirits and other dimensional beings. It's not all the same, but it is similar enough that there appears to be a crossover, in my opinion. Kevin, it's all the same thing. Edie, I personally don't believe they are related. If I see something for myself, then I'll consider it. I believe in all of the above, but not in relation to one another. Gabe, like George Carlin said, paraphrasing, they're part of the club, and you're not in it. Oh, got to get in that club. Serena, all connected, dig deep enough, read, research, develop your discernment to be able to snuff out truth from BS, and you will find the ancients were right. We are all one. We are all connected. Debbie, I believe they are related. I've been to places where all three have been reported in the same area. I've also noticed on my ghost box a couple of times where it sounds what I think are extraterrestrial noises and what they would sound like. Others have agreed that they did not sound human. I'm definitely open to the idea they are connected. Uncle Dale and his power stash. 98% of our brain is a vast associative network whose job it is to recognize similarities. For example, I could give you a list of 20 characteristics of two different animals, and after a while, thinking about it, you might tentatively conclude they were both cats, even though tigers and tabby cats are vastly different. But show a child a photo of a tiger, and he instantly knows that is a cat. I think that is why we want to group all paranormal phenomena together in one bucket, because they all share the not normal tag, so our brain starts looking for similarities and finds a ton. Little physical evidence tends to be single individuals experiencing these things, profound emotional impact on the experiences, etc. So the impression that they are connected could just be a pattern recognition gone wrong. Thank you, Uncle Dale, and everyone else who took part in today's Thought of the Dave. We will do it all again tomorrow on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you to Captain Shirk for putting our news together at the SOR Newswire, which can be found at spacedoutradio.com. And a big thanks to David Weatherly for coming on the show, talking about all things weird and strange. EerieLights.com is his website. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, in your cars, at work, in our chat rooms, wherever you may be. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you for sharing your evening with us, because together, my friends, say it with me, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Good night.